Hello everybody, and welcome back to Let's Play Witch on the Holy Night. Previously, we had a bit of a slow burn episode in which Sojiro spent quite a bit of time with Tobimaru in the student council room. We learned a lot about Aozaki and just her vibe with the school, and we had a lot of humorous interactions between Aozaki and Tobimaru. We learned that Aozaki's relationship with Sojiro being so feud is because Sojiro or Aozaki is reminded of someone from her past by Sojiro. I think we're gonna end up getting into some more spooky shenanigans because we're heading into the nighttime segment. So hopefully we get into some more spicy stuff. I'm really looking forward to that, but this game is like definitely feels like a slow burn. Like, I mean, it's just like Fate Stay Night, really. Well, especially the Fate route. I feel like UBW and especially Heaven's Fill just get right on with it because, you know, the player has to unlock those routes. I think. Can you skip to UBW from the beginning of the game? You can't do Heaven's Feel, I know that. Anyway, let's continue. There we go. Yeah, now we have to go work at that shitty-ass, like, what was it, a ramen shop? The school day over, Sojiro headed straight to his job. I'm already gonna be bad at reading today. While the school had approved his jobs at the Chinese restaurant and fish market in Misaki shopping district, there was other work he hadn't mentioned to them. He has 2 jobs, and then he worked that part-time job at the carnival place. And it was not because he knew that they would complain at him working too many, but rather because of the illicit nature of one job in particular. The carnival one, right? Oh, gambling. Today's workplace was a pachinko parlor in front of Yashirogi Station. Oh man, are we gonna face the bog? Sojiro changed out of his school uniform and into a black faux tuxedo uniform, then began cleaning the storefront. If any of y'all have seen Kaiji, you'll know what I'm talking about. That's an interesting bug. It'll probably go away. Yashirogi was the jewel of Misaki City, a busy place with a vast assortment of commercial centers and shopping arcades, where there were people in mass. Taco Bell in mass. There were products made in mass. A romantic might describe it as a place of joy. A realist would note the free enterprise, and a cynic would point at all the garbage. Local authorities had attempted to beautify Yashirogi, but there was one basic tenet of society that they could not overcome. This establishment was the embodiment of that rule. Businesses such as this attracted the dregs of society, and as such, the front of the parlor had to be cleaned several times a day. Sojiro stood outside in the winter cold, sweeping used-up cigarette butts, picking up discarded flyers, and tossing empty cans into the trash. You know, this wouldn't be that bad of a job, actually. Just cleaning is not that bad. Especially if it's just, like, basic cleaning and not, like the church cleaning where you need to get a fucking ladder and, like, climb all the way up there. Because I have a bad fear of heights. Like, no, I ain't doing that shit. Something about it must have reminded him of mountain life, because he cheerfully finished the job with ease. After making sure the storefront was acceptably clean, he returned to the inside of the parlor where it was nice and warm. Blinding lights, deafening sounds, and the oppressive odor of tobacco assaulted him as he passed through the parlor on his way to the office.
店長、外回りの掃除終わりました。
はい、ご苦労様。それでいいかな。2階の40番台のお客さんの様子見てきてくれない？どうも懐に飲んでそうなんだよね。
Oh!
姉さん。
Is it gonna be that one? Is it gonna be that one lady from the church? That'd be some shit. I doubt it though. She didn't seem like she'd be a gambler. His boss was a good-natured man who used to work a desk job. The reason he employed someone like Sojiro, even though he was clearly a student, was not because he admired him for working his way through school. It was because all the other employees were scary and intimidating, and he wanted at least one employee who was not.
いいんですか？トイレの掃除まだですけど。
いいの。なんかね、カメラの死角にいるんでいまいち確証取れないの。そうちゃん、今のところ的中率 100% でしょ。様子見てきてくれないかな。
Hearing that, Sojiro puts away his cleaning equipment and headed upstairs. I don't even think that Sojiro would be able to cheat at, like, checkers, for example. I don't even think he'd cheat at that. It was a typically large-scale pachinko parlor with 2 floors. It prided itself on being a local establishment that was satisfied with taking the locals' money little by little without resorting no more exploitative means. Oh yeah, I forgot that this is a system you can do. That's nice. But regardless of the parlor's intentions, its customers were not so scrupulous. Among them were casual players, professional gamblers, and cheaters looking to profit by exploiting whatever loopholes they could find. Of particular prevalence was a device developed in the mid-80s that could disrupt the machine's circuitry from the outside and make it much easier to get what was called a 777 jackpot. As much as the parlor wanted to deny these cheaters entry, it needed to present hard evidence of cheating or risk losing customers, particularly in the service of industry, innocent until proven guilty was not a rule taken lightly. That's weird. Did they really treat that as a case for gambling places? When the law is when the police clearly do not have that law? As a result, they could only punish the customers they caught in the act. Such cheaters were known as gotoshi, a slice of society which Sojiro knew nothing about. What he did know was that they were inconveniencing his employer and violating the rules. He went upstairs. The radio and game machine sound on the second floor were quieter than the cacophony downstairs. There were 100 game machines on the ground floor and over 80 on the second. While there were some empty seats here and there, it was a solid evening turnout. Okay, I would laugh if it's someone like Alzaki, or it would not be Alice, but it's Alzaki. There's no way she'd be here, but imagine that. The machine mentioned by his boss was in the center aisle. Sojiro nonchalantly leaned back against the wall and watched the customer hit the jackpot over and over again. Yeah! Oh boy. The second he saw her, his gut told him that she was not cheating. She's using magic, that's not cheating. He still was not sure what made someone a master swindler, but if it meant they were special, this woman certainly fit that description. It was almost as if he could feel the luck emanating from her. She's gonna have an aura voice. I already know it. As the customers looked on, she silently turned the handle again and again. She appeared older than Sojiro. She wore a green, form-fitting one-piece dress. A pair of stockings covered her legs. Her slender legs were gracefully crossed, and her elegance suited a painting better than a casino. Her dark reddish hair was cut short in a bob, perfectly framing her stylish spectacles and crimson lips. Truth be told, something was off about this picturesque beauty, ringing the jackpot over and over again. 4 boxes where the pachinko balls sat at her feet, and her winning streak showed no sign of abating. She looked bored as her slender porcelain fingers lifted a long cigarette to her lips. Just as that thought crossed his mind, her gaze turned toward the wall and Sojiro. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine. He reflexively covered his mouth to keep from shrieking. Damn. It's acting on pure instinct. Sojiro took off running. He headed straight downstairs, desperate to not be on the same floor as her. He would have run straight out the door, but for his obligation to his job. You know, am I forgetting something extremely major that happened in episode 2? Because I have no idea what's going on. I feel like an absolute idiot, and I really do apologize. If anyone could confirm that for me, or if you're supposed to be confused, because I do not remember. Tried to keep his composure as he spoke, jamming his school uniform into a paper bag as he ran out of the parlor. Cloudy weather brought the shadow of night over Yashiroki as he ran through the shop arcade toward the station. He shot up the long staircase like an arrow, quickly pulled out his train pass from his wallet, and passed through the ticket gate. The ticket gate was crowded with people standing around, walking and talking. Station attended by the automatic ticket machine had an unpleasant look on his face. There was now familiar, comforting hustle and bustle around him. Just another day in the city. Nothing like what he witnessed the night before. I do remember him talking about that with Tobimaru, though, from last episode. He could finally breathe again. The momentary rush of relief brought him to an abrupt stop. He nervously turned around. There was no way that dangerous individual could be behind him. She just is, please. He couldn't think of a good reason for why he'd fled so desperately. As far as he could remember, he hadn't even seen the threat's face long enough to form an opinion about her. Sojiro gave himself a good slap on the cheek to pull himself together and quickly made his way down to the platform. Unfortunately, the next train was 10 minutes away, and panicking would do him no favors, so he quietly found an empty seat and sat down. Swear to God, if she comes and sits down right next to him. He took another deep breath. He was surrounded by people waiting for the train just like he was, and no sign of anyone pursuing him. His head finally cleared up, and he assured himself that he was overthinking things, though he was surprised at how heavy his shoulders felt. Sojiro sighed at his greater-than-expected fatigue. He had certainly struggled since coming down from the mountains, but in retrospect, it could have been worse. Physically, he was probably holding up fine. He was much less confident in his mental state. The city and the mountains could not have been more different. He had been slow to recognize the differences and adapt. Acclimation was simple enough. Humans were nothing if not adaptable. Even without any effort, one would learn to adjust over time. Recognizing the challenges had been the hard part. I don't envy him at all. It really would suck to be a fish out of water in such an extreme circumstance like that. Sojiro grumbled a complaint he'd never uttered before. To be honest, he was still afraid to wander around town. There were so many things city people took for granted that Sojiro had yet to grasp. It was little wonder that this never-ending chain of surprises would wear on him. Who knows if it was a hallucination, though? He muttered to himself and then shook his head. That which exists, exists. Such was the way of all things. Tobimaru had called it a hallucination, but Sojiro knew what he saw was real. The city was a magical kingdom compared to the mountains. If there were real magicians secretly living here, that should have been no surprise at all. The thought alone made his legs tremble. It took him a moment longer to realize that they were quivering out of fear. He had feared the unnatural ever since he encountered a wild bear on a mountain path as a child. Sojiro smiled a little as he recalled his traumatic childhood memory. Anyone would have fainted at the sudden appearance of a growling beast that towered over 6 feet tall. The monster in the movie that Sojiro saw not 2 days ago was the equivalent of a cuddly stuffed animal when compared to the wild mountain creatures. Absolutely. He was reminded that he'd faced far worse before, and his ordeal now was something he could endure. They're trying to catch somebody and eliminate them. At face value, the meaning was obvious, but the implications were simply too frightening to contemplate seriously. Perhaps he had misheard the words, or perhaps the speaker had misspoke. Even as he said it, the idea didn't feel quite real. It was hard to imagine that it applied to him. Sojiro breathed in and closed his eyes. His vision dimmed, putting the illuminated cityscape out of sight and out of mind. For now, he resolved to put last night's events behind him. When he opened his eyes, his breathing had calmed. The question suddenly popped into Sojiro's head. He decided he would ask next time and stood up from his chair. A long streak of light blazed by, announcing the arrival of the next train. Either the next day or we'll switch. Oh! I just got an achievement. Which on the Holy Night? Nights. So we're gonna save. Oh my god, I really... Oh man, I didn't realize I was that close to the end of, the episode or chapter 2 last time. Shit. Well, really quick, let me go to archive and see if there's any bonus chapters. I don't think so. No, there's not. So there's probably some for chapter 3 then. Gotcha. So it looks like we're about a fifth of the way through. Probably? I wouldn't even say that. Maybe like a sixth, because I know this game is a bit shorter than the other games, but some of these books are quite thick. They thick! Okay, let's just start chapter 3 then. Okay, cool. So yeah, we're gonna start chapter 3 at nighttime. We're probably gonna switch to Alzaki and Alice. I want to see Alice again, so hopefully we can do that. 3 nights. Let me tell you how the events of yesterday transpired. Okay, things are getting ominous again. On moonless nights, you must never look back. Was it a lesson, or was it a warning? It was so very long ago, at the time I could not have imagined what my very being would become. One night, it came without warning. I was filled with an anxiety so heightened that it made me want to burst into tears, so I fled to my grandfather's workshop. Are we returning to the perspective at the beginning of the game with the little girl? Unlike the grandfather I knew, he smiled and kindly placed his hand upon my head. Yes, the Red Death follows your every step. Rather than consoling me, he sent me home with only those haunting words. At night I was certain that I sensed a shadow lurking behind me. Something or someone watching me from afar. Then little by little, year by year, it drew closer. Eventually, the presence that once felt like a spot on the horizon grew so close that I could feel its breath down the base of my neck. Of course, it was all in my mind. When I turned around, nobody was there. But that night marked the beginning. In hindsight, I later understood that the indescribable anxiety I felt was the dread of certain death.
The cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed.
How much time has passed since that night? I wonder if Alice was a little girl then. It's certainly possible. I mean, I feel like the game wants you to suspect that it's Alzaki because you meet her so early on in the game. It lingered deep in the recesses of my mind where childhood memories are kept. Faded storybook-esque memory. On dark nights, I still hear the faint echo of my grandfather's words. But no matter how strong the wind may howl or how entrancing the song of the girl next to me, I could never bury his ominous words completely. Oh. Okay, maybe I'm just wrong. Let's just continue reading. I'm not sure what's going on. The girl beside me said. Alice's inflectionless voice spoke volumes of her role as the bystander. That night, there was only me and her. It was the night I would mark as the birth of who I am today. For what should have been quite the memorable night, it sure wasn't a promising start. Dense clouds blocked the starlight above like a black umbrella. Strong winds tore through the sky, carrying the heavy clouds with it. Hands on the clock in the middle of the park pointed skyward as if reaching for the moon. Is that Alzaki? The hair doesn't look the same, though. Is it? Unfortunately for them, tonight there was no moon to point at. The winter air grew fiercer as the night wore on. Inhaling felt as though it would freeze me from the inside. Oh, that's really cool. The air chilled me to the bone, threatening to pass up my spine directly to my brain. To prevent my mind from being paralyzed, and to prevent my fingertips from becoming stone, I sparked a fire using my internal rhythm and emotion.
触覚を譲るわ。幸運ね。あの位置なら刻んでおいたウィスプが止まる。
Unless this is like a training session between Aki and Alice. I responded to Alice with a nod, and then for just a moment I saw the ground. My legs quivered ever so faintly. I told myself they were shaking from the cold, but I wasn't so sure. In reality, they may not have been numbed by the cold, but by fear. I breathed a sigh of relief. My humanity must still be intact if my emotions are still present. Okay, no, this is getting trippy as balls, man. Before I could sink into a pool of my own sentimentality, the sensations from the bounded field flowed from Alice into me. A transparent wall covered the entire park. An unrecognizable carpet rooted deep under the earth. Alice Kuonji's chants of the Mother Goose fairy tales permeated the night. Sensations became one with my body. I felt goosebumps on my quivering right arm. Someone had trespassed. The goosebumps crept up my right arm like ants, and slowly but surely made inroads through my heart. Holding back the desire to drive them out, I waited for them to reach a certain definitive position. A moonless night. The park's quaint streetlights were not enough to lift the darkness. The ants came to a stop. Okay, this music track is going hard. Far, far from my right arm, they had reached my very heart. Even without the aid of my sense of sight, I could see the intruder lurking in the darkness. The starboard, in the bushes about 30 steps back, on all fours, it was beckoning with its right hand.
Soko!
The enemy's movement and my perception of it were in lockstep. I spun around. No, it is. Okay. The enemy's arm stretched out like a spear. Okay, I gotta keep going, man. I have a lot to say, but okay, it is her. Okay. Oh, I have no idea what's going on, but it's really cool. This lethal weapon aimed at the back of my head brushed my hair at breakneck speed. With the omniscient awareness granted by Alice's ward, I managed to avoid it by the skin of my teeth. It's another one of those dolls. My hair fanned through the air from the violence of the attack. The strike grazed my cheek, and I felt a small, sharp pain. It felt like the kiss of death. I switched the flow of my body's blood to a different cycle. The blood running through my veins at a few feet per second transmuted into an imaginary element. My body became a single circuit, and my heart transformed into a completely different engine. Within me stirred a noble motion of immeasurable heat, something mystic yet untapped by humankind that made me who I am. It was the fire of life behind all miracles and fables. What we mages called magical energy.
Set.
Algoa! I turned around, set the enemy in my sights, and held up one hand. My arm was the agent of my will. My lack of experience meant my magecraft would only be possible with the use of vocalizations and gestures. Magical formulae were engraved all over the park. All I had to do was ignite them. I needed to direct the flow of the magical energy within my body into each formula. Typically, a mage acts as a conduit. Whether wired or wireless, the mage simply pours magical energy into the formula. Releasing this energy in the form of a projectile, stream, or any number of other methods would usually suffice, but in my case, it was the feeling of my limbs whipping out.
Moira!
I fought speed with speed. The visuals in this game are so pretty. The enemy's arm extended 10 feet forward, became engulfed in flames. It was nighttime at the park, the scene reminiscent of a campfire, but one in which the center of the flames contained a humanoid figure wriggling like a shadow puppet. The flames subsided just as unnaturally as it had ignited. No crackling, no burning smell.
結界返すわ。死体を確認するから。
Now that we confirmed that Alice is the girl from the, at least I think so, from the beginning of the game at the start, I'm going to, before the recording of the next episode, I'm going to go back and read the very first like 15 minutes of the game again, and definitely have to theorize some more about what's going on. But that helps a lot. That leads to a lot more questions, however. A lot happened in this scene, like a lot happened. It's freaking nuts. But yeah, overall, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I really love Alice's incantations being the those the songs. Yeah, I'm gonna be here forever if I keep looking through this, but okay, I think I have the gist of what's going on. After telling this to Alice, I headed toward the motionless figure. I killed it. I killed it. I killed it. Regardless of who my opponent was, I just took someone's life. My throat parched. I swallowed the truth that without this sense of reality, I would have been helpless. So hard and bitter, impossible to swallow, but I tried to anyway. I was unservingly calm. My heart pounded and my breath felt heavy, but my mind was nonetheless calm. By the time I realized it, the charred remains were already in front of me. Bracing for a counterattack, I carefully examined the corpse. Everything seemed fine. This body lying slumped to the ground was nothing but ash. But something wasn't right. To begin with, its remains didn't smell organic. Not willing to believe my hunch, I took a closer look at the corpse's face. All that greeted me was the featureless white face of a mannequin. Screaming, I kicked the mannequin. The corpse crumbled to ash and it disappeared with the wind. It was no corpse, it was just a puppet. And for all of our efforts to lure the master out, we had once again been tricked by a familiar. It's been happening over and over again. I wonder if the master is the girl at the casino then. My debut, my first test out in the open, would be postponed for another day. At that moment, I suddenly noticed something familiar in the corner of my eye. Something seemed strange about the slide on the other end of the park. It appeared as though it was the shadow were larger than it should be. Was I still drunk on the high of battle? It took me a second to realize what it was. Sojourn was like, what the? Pulling out was a mistake. Started by my voice, the figure wearing a familiar high school uniform took a... Oh no! Took a step back and then it broke into a sprint and out. Oh my god. Out. I was like, it's like, no witnesses! Like someone running for their life. Or should I say, he was doing exactly that. Oh my god! In a rush, I shouted at my partner, but she hadn't even noticed the third party's presence in the first place. Though it wasn't as if I could move by myself, embarrassingly. The fight had taken more out of me than I'd have liked, and I apologize for the dog screaming in the background, my friends. There was no time for Nicites? I've never seen that word before. For us, being seen here was a matter of life and death. Gotta get him, gotta get him, gotta kill him, gotta shaking out the numbness of my legs, I made for the park's exit. Had to admire his escape. The witness The witness, part of the entire night's proceedings, had disappeared in the darkness of the residential district without a trace.
もう結界にあいつの感触なんてなかったのに。
Sojiro's just that guy, man. Complaining to myself wouldn't bring back the figure in uniform. Bitter at my own competence, I gave up the chase. Though temporary, the park had become Alice's woods. For anyone within a few feet of the park, other park-goers' identifiable features and voices became murky, like the stuff of fairy tales. I wonder if he was still able to recognize you then. Or is this like... Is this what he saw in the park originally? That he was telling... That he was telling Tobimaru about... Wait, what? Is that what's going on? So you're telling me this is happening in the past the night before, but it's taking place the... Okay, maybe. We'll see. The night's proceedings may have had a witness, but if our identities were still hidden, then this was still a chance.
あの背中、男だった。
I returned to the park. That uniform was without a doubt from my high school. That was clue enough. If he was a schoolmate of mine, I had plenty of methods to flush him
にし
out.
ても、どうしてこう問題ばっかり増えていくんだろう。
Amidst my grumbling, I set my priorities straight. Before some strange rumors spread, I needed to seal the witness's mouth shut. That was the highest priority, quickly and without mercy. Looking up, I saw Alice's previously distant figure. Though she was in as much trouble as I was with her existence as a mage, also exposed, she had but one thing to say.
これは困ったことになったわね。
In other words, skill issue. Her statue-like figure staring into the darkness seemed more expressionless than calm. I was pissed off. Her inscrutable voice resembled the moonless night so much it made me angry. Wait, seriously? What? That was chapter 3? Damn, that was the shortest chapter in the game. Unless chapter 3 was supposed to fill in the blanks of chapter 2, so now we understand what Sojiro witnessed and what he was talking to Tobimaru about? Okay, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the case. Okay, let's archive. Okay, now we I like how like the books are all different. It's a really nice touch. I love it. Alright, let's continue. I guess we're gonna start chapter 4 then. I imagine chapter 4 will probably be a lot longer. Losing her name. There really isn't there really isn't any other way of saying this. I'm a magician. Ah, this song. Kind of like those witches in fairy tales who live alone in the woods and perform miracles with the wave of a finger. While a popular depiction of it differs from reality, it's closer to the truth than you know. Though, just so we're clear, no, I don't fly through the sky on a broom. I cannot transform into animals or speak with small birds. Modern mages are nothing so fanciful. Our existence sounds unbelievable, but we're quite grounded. Though it may seem like we can do anything, we're actually majorly constrained. And while I still have a lot to learn about, this is my real job. It sounds a lot more romantic than being a high school student, right? Naturally, this is a secret I don't just share with anyone. A mage must do everything in their power to conceal their work. That is the first and most important of the Association's 10 laws. Not that I'm tempted to let the cat out of the bag in the least. My secret identity as an honor student is intact, and absolutely no good would come of me revealing my true nature. If anything, it'd only lead to more headaches. That's why I do everything in my power to keep it a secret. Of course, if I'd accomplished anything as a magician by now, then maybe I'd see it differently. I've fantasized about revealing my secret life's work to a single special person when I finally make something myself. Yeah, it'd be pretty stellar to just confess one day, by the way, I'm a magician. That idea alone is enough to keep me from spoiling the big reveal, regardless of the Association's rules. So you are a bit of a romantic. My grandfather patted me on the head when I shared these thoughts with him. I don't know if that was praise or what, but I remember that his touch was gentle. I first learned that I would be succeeding my grandfather on the day I graduated middle school. When I returned home, there he was. Your elder sister left on a journey. From this day forth, you are the heir to the Aozaki. He said it in such a matter-of-fact way. I knew that the Aozaki family passed down this old tradition of magecraft. To be honest, I never imagined they would be the one to wield it. Magecraft is supposed to be passed down to a single child. It was my sister's role to take the mantle, and I had no interest in dedicating myself to so many rules and routines. I planned to live a normal life. I had hopes and dreams for the future. I felt bad for my sister, but I was determined to live my life my way. And while I managed to do just that for a time, I was blindsided by a vicious counterpunch. Since then, I've been thrust headlong into a world I'd only observed from afar. Yeah, she had a late start, which is why she's training so hard. Doesn't really have the skills. It was a hell of a way to start high school. I suppose it wasn't all that bad, all things considered. A lot has happened since then. I was so dazed by this newfound life that a year of school motored right by. I was the second year before I knew it. Thankfully, nothing drastic has happened. The 6 months my roommate and I totally tried to kill each other notwithstanding. As it happens, I've got a natural talent at this magic stuff. So I've yet to have any hang-ups there either. I'm only human after all. So I've had my fair share of headaches for sure, but never once did I worry about my future. I thought my life would be smooth sailing all the way. If only everything had gone to plan last night.
どう？
Alice Koenji asked Aoko Aozaki the second she entered the house. Her dark eyes succeeded where her voice failed to communicate the gravity of the situation. Aoko took off her unflattering coat, hung it on the hanger, and sat down on the sofa. Alice sat across from her with the table separating them. Please put on that sweater.
そっちは？よくないわね。偵察に行けるのは7個くらい。ここのところ使ってばかりで作り置きをする余裕もなかったし。
I wonder what they're going after right now, specifically. Alice's gaze drifted from Aoko to the box on the table.
あの夜、町を監視していた奴はいないの？町の偵察は完璧なんでしょ？
それは昼間の
My
話。
first dialogue skip of the
夜
day.
間飛行は危険が多いわ。
Meaning they were of the least use when needed the most, Aoko sighed.
そういうあなたは？朝は随分と強気だったけど。
ああ、こっちは予定通りよ。明日までには絞り込めると思う。今朝、飛び丸にうちの生徒の自宅と行動時間を調べさせたから。
Wow, that's one way to go about it, to see who goes whom, who goes whom. This is a crackpot theory, but what if Sojiro, or what if Azaki is reminded of her grandfather from Sojiro, and that's what pisses her off. That's like the only person that we know of that she knows about. So
あの時
maybe.
間に公園をうろつくやつはめったにいないし、簡単に割り出せる。
そう簡単に行くの？
行くわよ。伊達に生徒会に勤めてないわ。その程度のデータは揃えてある。
Truly big brain.
月1のバイト先はおろか、親しい友人宅との移動時間、その優先順位まで調べ上げてるんだから。
Man, imagine just having access to all that information. Just like, okay, I'll just have their addresses.
人には見せたくなかったリストだけど、そんな余裕ないでしょ？だから、そういうのが向いてる副会長にやらせたの。
We're talking Morrow being used as her little fucking information gatherer. Incidentally, the creation of the secret file started at the moment Aoko became student council president. The mere rumor of is so that's why she kicked this shit out. Toby The mere rumor of its existence was enough to strike fear into this entire student's body. Student body.
徹底しているわね。
Alice was only mildly surprised. It had been almost 2 years since they first started living together. She knew as well as anyone that when Aoko put her mind to something, she saw through the end.
ま、私もあれがこんな風に役立つとは思ってもみなかったけど。
But what happened last night was far beyond a mere exception to the rule. This predicament should not have been possible.
それより、原因は分かったの？結界の結びに不手際があったなんてのは聞かないわよ。
Aoko glared at her. The ward was Alice's responsibility. If it was to blame for last night's trouble, Alice had to own up to her fair share. Alice and Aoko may have been roommates and partners, but it was a relationship of convenience, if anything. While lineage had brought them together, they were more like enemies than allies. Ultimately, they were just not a match. If it weren't the stealing of food, where there was a blunder, it was punished. Where there was an opening, it would be attacked. If there was even an opportunity, the two of them would kill each other in the event of such a moment. Ah yes, mages. That's how they are, man. Alice locked eyes with Aoko. Aoko's fierce gaze could make a grown man cower in fear, but Alice did not bat an eyelash. No, I'm sorry, dude. If Alice looked at me like that, I think I'd be the one like dead. I'd be like, okay, I think I'm gonna leave, and then I wouldn't be able to leave. I'd just be dead on the spot. There's something about her eyes, though. Like, typically anime eyes that are lifeless are like very eerie, but hers are like very enchanting. I don't know why.
仮の話だけど、あの結界に落ち度があったのなら、今まで何度もこういう状況になっていたでしょうね。
I suppose you're right, Aoko agreed as the question reaffirmed her trust in Alice.
結界のあり方は完璧だったのね。
絶対とまでは断言はできないけど。
Alice answered as flatly as ever. A bounded field is like a sanctuary sealed away from the real world. Steps are taken whereby a certain area is cut off from the outside world. There are various kinds of bounded fields. There are physical ones that close off an area behind a wall, and less tangible ones that use mirrors, mist, or trees to conceal that which occurs within. However, when closing off an area to the outside world, you cannot avoid communicating the abnormality's existence. In other words, this area may be closed off to the outside world, but it is impossible to hide the fact that it is closed off. In time, some will take interest in a sealed-off area, even if they cannot see what is going on inside. Some might say this is putting the cart before the horse. The ideal field would be one that was both undetectable and impervious to interference from the outside. That was exactly the kind Alice had generated in the park the night before.
その場所に用があっても、今はないように思わせれば、誰もそこには立ち入らない。隠したい場所の周りに、一時的な意識の改ざんを促す結界を張る。手間はかかるんだけど、1時間程度の人よけには信頼性は高い結界よね。アリスの鏡を使った一級品だし、途中で破れることもない。事実、入ってきたのはあの人形だけだとはっきり感じられた。これで完璧じゃなかったら何が完璧なのよ。
私もわからない。森作りに落ち度はなかったわ。森は数日かけて栽培したものだし、今まで通り信頼できる結界よ。けど例外があったのなら、どこかで見落としがあったのね。
Could it possibly have been the girl at the pachinko area because she like directly, I think, made eye contact with Sojiro and like maybe that affected it? I mean, I'm under the assumption that it was Sojiro at the park, but we'll just have to wait and see. Though Alice's words conceded the possibility, her eyes expressed her confidence that she had overlooked nothing.
参った。こうなると、一番いいのは、あいつが人形使いだってパターンね。それならかろうじて納得できる。問題は、侵入した時の違和感をどうやって消したかってことだけど。
The thought of being targeted by this individual is pretty terrifying. If they're able to penetrate Alice's field, it could only mean that their skill in magecraft was superior to Alice's. Alice, in her current state, would be completely helpless against such a foe.
その線はないわ。
Yeah, it was just some dude.
彼は部外者よ。ムクドリはともかく、 ロビンが後をたどれなかったもの。魔力の気配は全くなし。誰かの魔術で操られている犠牲者。
Aoko was quickly running out of straws to grasp at, and that meant she was out of questions to ask. All she could do was call it bad luck and leave it at that.
魔術師の秘密を見られて、おまけに目撃者を逃がしたか。普通の高校生の悩みじゃないな。
The sofa groaned as she leaned back. Her gaze went up to the brown ceiling with a sigh. It wasn't much of a view. She was becoming increasingly depressed.
アオコ、覚悟を決めておいて。
Dang. Her roommate's voice seemed different. Aoko just kept staring up at the wooden ceiling.
それとも、あなたにできないのなら、私が言ってあげてもいいけど。
The cool-mannered girl's statement carried an equally icy implication. Aoko took the words in slowly with as much sincerity as she could muster. It was like trying to swallow molten lead.
そうだ。覚悟なんて。
The thought sounded hollow even as it popped into her head. This was clearly different from last time. While the aim was indeed the same, the circumstances surrounding her target were clearly different. She may have been determined before, but that was her as a mage. If enemies emerged, she would kill them. If she was challenged, she would step up to the fight. It was a fight between two mages, and her opponent was in the wrong. Even if this could only end in death for one of them, it was an outcome both parties could accept. Kill or be killed. Morality had no weight on the scale. But this time was different. Her opponent was neither enemy nor mage. Even if she was prepared to kill them, this person was likely not ready to die. That's why morality did factor into it now. Was she truly up to the task of murdering an innocent person? Could she swallow the tact that this was a common occurrence for a mage? Yeah. Or are you gonna be like Tosaka and be like, ah, shit! She started sardonically. Being a mage did not mean that Aoko was some kind of monk who could cut ties with the real world on a whim. But there was one thing that Aoko hated. It was doing things without conviction or an understanding of exactly why she was doing them. When she acted, she preferred to act decisively.
ま、やるしかないだろうね。
I'll just beat them up so bad they forget. As he said it, she got up from the sofa, having had her fill the ceiling for one day. Aoko had returned to the alcove always, and Alice was done probing her.
じゃあ、これ。
As if to reward her, Alice produced a small bottle. It fit neatly in the palm of her hand. It's mana juice. The bottle looked completely out of place in her slender fingers. The glass was cloudy and it appeared empty. Some shreds of paper remained on the front where there was once a label.
何よそれ。
Her face is adorable. Aoko stared at the bottle suspiciously.
収納の小瓶。ちょうど一つ余ってたから。
Oh yeah, I have a bottle now.
はい。
名前は忘れたけど、中国の小説に出てきたのと同
Oh
じよ。
wow, that's useful. Aoko was miraculously able to parse what Alice meant.
それってレンゲ堂の兄弟の話？じゃああの赤いひょうたんと同じなわけ？
Oh, is this an Estus flask?
言いたくないけど、そこら辺の風邪薬のラベルを無理やり剥がして小瓶に見せかけてるそれが？
No, it's an Estus flask, you dumbass. Alice looked at the bottle and acknowledged how ordinary it looked. You're right. She also understood that she would not be the one using it as she set it on the table.
赤いひょうたんじゃなくて、陽子玉の上瓶の方。
そういう問題じゃない。私は魔術師としての雰囲気を論じてるんだ。
些細なことを気にするのね。せいろがんの瓶じゃないだけいいと思うけど。
Oh my god, Alice. You're stone cold. You would give that to her, honestly. She made a good point.
蓋を開けて相手の名前を尋ねればいいから。ただし、相手に抵抗する意志が残っている場合、小瓶は割れるから気をつけて。
Okay. Aoko raised her eyebrows.
ちょっと待った。抵抗する意志があるとダメって、眠っている時にやれってこと？
それは試したことがなかったわ。眠っているのに返事をする人っているの？
たまにいるけど。まあ確かに珍しいわね、そういう人。
In that case, one would have to weakened them until they were about to pass out.
そうそう。薬や魔術がかかっていると、その重さでも割れるから気をつけて。
使えない。それってほとんど役立たずってことじゃない。
それは青子次第ね。
Alice turned away, she replied, as if the topic no longer mattered to her.
はあ、アリスがこういう小道具好きなのは知ってたけどね。これも趣味なわけ？
Aoko asked, hoping Alice would deny it.
多分。
Perhaps.
それでどうするの？持っていくのか行かないのか。
I could see like Alice owning a craft store with just a bunch of useless shit. But I love it. Without answering, Aoko dithered a bit before taking the bottle and putting it in her pocket. She figured she might be able to find some use for it. Chekhov's gun, motherfucker. Unless it's just going to be used very soon, then that'll be fine. 2 hours had passed and the clock struck 9. Their conversation had moved from the drawing room to the sunroom and had manifested into the kind of scene one would not expect in such a mansion. Eggs?
まあ本当はね、飛び丸に任せる気はなかったんだけど。
What is that? A hot earthenware pot set on the table. Aoko spat out complaints to no one in particular as she plucked food from it with her chopsticks. Tonight they were eating a traditional Japanese meal that looked out of place in this mansion. When it came to the kind of Japanese hot pot where all one had to do was buy and boil ingredients, it was usually Aoko's responsibility. Alice sat across from Aoko as she silently poked at the pot with a fork.
山城のやつが来るなり、しずきくんはまだ部活に入っていないから面倒を見てあげてくれないかななんて言ってくるもんだからさ。
Does Alice not want to eat
全
any
校
of it?
生徒の行動範囲なんて見直す気力なくなっちゃったのよ。
The egg she had plucked was still as silky as a baby's bottom, so she returned it to the pot. She settled for the shiratake noodles instead. Oh!
そりゃあのバカがバイトで忙しいのは知ってるわ
I
よ。
love the fact that they're always fighting over their food. It's honestly adorable.
だからできるだけ春先までのんびりしてて、あんなのでも親身になってくれそうな部の部長に当たってみたのに、ありがとうの一つもないってのはちょっと尺に触るわよね。ねえ、聞いてるアリス？
Yeah, totally. As if her mouth was full, she simply nodded in response. Her expression stated that she had no interest nor opinion on the matter, but she at least appeared to be listening. Satisfied, Aoko nibbled on some hanpen fish cake. What the hell is that?
それに私、いい人なんて言われるやつは信用できないのよ。あろうことか、飛び丸までそんなこと口走る始末だし。
That's one thing.
あれは
he's
いい人なんじゃなくて、ただぼんやりしてるだけなんだっての。
It's true though. Like Aoko's like got the she doesn't like people to like. I'm a nice guy, madam. Do you want me to open the door for you? Do you want me to give you a good morning text for you?
だいたいあそこまで言われて怒りもしないなんてどうかしてるわ。
Bro. Her thoughts went to what had happened in the student council room earlier that day. She remembered how non-responsive Sojourner had been to her words. His unconcerned face alone was enough for her to swallow the rest of her pen without chewing it.
何が分かってるんだなよ。
Her words were a lot like those that ended her childhood.
青子ちゃんは分かっているんだね。
It's definitely like a lot of childhood trauma that makes her not like Sojourner.
それでも自分であり続けられるということはとても強いことなんだよ。
Perhaps it was meant as a compliment. She took it as a patronizing way to pity her, because the person who said it had acted like she was looking at a wounded animal.
ま、あんな変態の言ってたことなんて今さらどうでもいいけどさ。
That's an interesting translation. Unless the context of the sentence completely changes the meaning of the word hentai in the sentence, because wouldn't she be calling him a perv? Or it could just be synonymous with her just calling him a creep, which it doesn't necessarily mean perv in this case, because a lot of Japanese really is context-based. But I wonder, in this context, I can understand why the translators decided to put weirdo. But I'm just interested in like what it would have been written if it was directly 100% translated. That episode might have made her the most confused she had ever been in her life. Yet what shocked young Aoko the most was the look of pity on the face of the person she admired the most.
喧嘩
Abrupt comment stopped her in their tracks.
ごめん、聞いてなかった。喧嘩ってあの喧嘩？
Alice nodded.
あなたの感想だけじゃ状況はよくつかめないけど
Oh my god, y'all see how freaking gorgeous Alice is? Oh my god. How do I get the thing to go down? Oh my god, she's so cute. What the hell?
つまり青子はその人に喧嘩を売りたかったのね
Yeah, you were deliberately trying to provoke him. Alice bit into the very last hand pen. Her remark was unexpected but completely on point.
なんでそうなるのよ。私はあんなのと1秒だって関わりたくないだけだってば。だいたいそれどころじゃないし、興味とか全くないし、会話もこれ以上ないってぐらい簡潔に切り上げたし。
ならどうして今そんな話をす
Oh,
るの
roasted. Alice is great. The straight man of the group.
え、それはあんたに今日の調査過程を知らせてあげたのよ。
I just
それ以外
noticed
何
that
があるっていうの？
Alice is eating with a fork. That's a really cool attention to detail. I like that. What other reason could Alice be suggesting Aoko had for bringing it up? I feel like there's only a few types of food that would be optimal for eating with chopsticks. I feel like everything else would be way easier to eat with a fork. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like eating everything with a chopstick would just get fucking boring. But the specific foods that are meant to be eaten with that, yeah, it's fair. You eat them faster that way. But like, the fork is just easier for some types of foods, my man. It would be several hours later in bed that Aoko realized that she had dug her own grave.
いいけど私は別に
Bro.
青子は本当にその人が嫌いなの
Alice ate her hot pot in silence as if she was honoring some sort of sacred ritual. Her face was as indifferent as always, but she was secretly enjoying how flustered Aoko was. Aoko remained oblivious to this. Normally she would have noticed immediately, but she was not quite herself at this moment.
本当にって、そりゃそうよ。気に食わないって何度も言ってるじゃない。
そう具体的には
は？具体的にはってそんなのに理由なんて。
She trailed off as she finally realized how disagreeable she was being. She could come up with no reason why. Her instincts had told her that she was incompatible with that hick. But why such a strong reaction? More than anything in the world, Aoko hated emotions without reason and decisions made with no rationale.
嫌いなものは嫌いなんだから、ちゃんとどっかに理由があるんだと思うけど。
The game is doing a really good job of making me like Aoko more as I play, which is great because at the beginning of the game I'm very much indifferent towards her, and like that indifference is like going away to the point where right now I'm actually really liking her a lot. She became more flustered the more she talked. Unfortunately for her, she could not come up with a coherent reason to hate Sojiro Shizuki. It was not his fault that he had zero common sense, it was the fault of the environment that he grew up in. In fact, it was admirable that he was trying so hard to adapt to civilized society. As clueless as he might seem, he was not a complete waste of space. And I love the idea that this development for her internally is going to be fucking overwritten once she learns that Sojiro was the one at the park. He's going to be like, I knew I had a reason for fucking hating you! If he seemed a bit slow, it was only because his gentle nature compelled him to think before acting. When one looked at everything objectively, the conclusion was obvious. As much as she was loath to admit it, he really was unassuming do-gooder everyone had him pegged as.
ちょっと本気かっての。人間的に悪いところ、本当にみじんもないのか？
Not really, no. I really like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, Sojiro's written as like a goody two-shoes, but he's not like a Gary Stu character. And I like that. I don't know how they managed to pull that off. I mean, I get it is because he actually is flawed, like, because of how awkward he is with social cues and how he just doesn't understand a lot of things. I suppose that's the reason, but it's very well done. And I dig that. If you're gonna do like a goody two-shoes character, you gotta make them have flaws. Because goody two-shoe characters don't necessarily need to be bad. In fact, there are plenty that I really enjoy. The chopsticks she had been using came to a stop. She was getting very annoyed. An irritational hatred burned through her head. Unable to come to terms with her feelings, she desperately tried to analyze Sojiro, but her mind only went in more circles. You're crushing on him easily. Alex fixed Aoko with a deadpan stare.
呆れた
A small sigh. Like, I'm a head
ら
out.
しくないわね青子
Oh my god, Alice's drip. Alice's drip. The necklace with the turtleneck, the skirt, that short black haircut, those piercing black eyes. Oh my god, she's beautiful. Holy crap. Why do the women in this game have to be so fucking goddamn beautiful? God damn it. I forget the artist. It was not, I think Nasu came up with like the first rough draft, I think, and then I think that's what you guys said, and then the other guy finished them, right? Those words were the final blow. Aoko felt the floor fall out from under her. She was unable to leave her chair until long after Alice had finished eating and left. And the next day. Tick-tock, tick-tock, brain rot, some snot. However, even after getting knocked down, Aoko Ozaki was not one to be kept that way. She made short work of clearing up after dinner, and after conceding the first bath of the night to Alice, left the drawing room. Since it was customary in these sorts of mansions to turn the lights off when leaving an empty room, the only lit areas of the house were the drawing room and the two girls' bedrooms. The upstairs was enveloped in darkness. Aoko briskly made her way to the deepest parts of the east wing along the long corridor, illuminated only by the light of the moon, and arrived at her room.
結論として、やっぱり騙し討ちは気に食わない。
Is Alice in her room? She'd been considering this on the way down the corridor, or perhaps ever since she left the drawing room. The moment she entered her room, she drew her proverbial line in the sand.
やるにしても隠れるのはなし。正面から堂々と向かい合って
Okay,
理由
you're
を
gonna
言う。
talk to Sojiro tomorrow? This is not a concession driven by feelings or sympathy or passion or anything. For her, this was simply the way things ought to be.
よし。そうと決まれば。
After settling her resolve, she headed to the study next door. Where's the birdie?
木曜棚の当時欄、緑の背表紙とは。
Without hesitation, she removed one book from the countless volumes on the shelf. The introductory textbooks transported her from the Aozaki residence, who were separated into 6 shelves labeled Monday to Saturday. Aoko had organized the books by topic, genre, and purposes, and had more or less memorized exactly what was in her personal library. Referencing any of this material took her no time at all. It was to be expected from Keeper of the Study. Though, this Keeper's fiefdom was nothing more than a small room. Both Aoko and Alice had given up all hope on the cluttered mess of the library in the annex. Nevertheless, on occasion, Aoko had no option other than to give Alice a heads up and visit it when the study did not meet her needs.
できればそれは避けたいところだけど、と。
Aoko placed the thick green book down and took a seat. The desk she sat at was sturdy but uninviting. It wasn't the sort of furniture girls her age grew attached to, but she liked its minimalistic elegance nonetheless. She flipped lightly through the book's old worn pages.
アリスみたいな結界は私にはまだ無理だ。人払いはその場所自体に頼らないといけないか。
The mountains? The woods? The school building empty at night? I mean, you could try it. You could try to pull a Shinji. She was looking for a place that would be except for the worst of luck, void of people, allowing her to forego the use of magecraft.
茨の壁だの魔力の霧だの。そういう回りくどいのもなんだしな。退路を断つっていうなら、もっとこう、見た目にも状況的にも派手な方が効果的だし。
This is probably my favorite Haozaki face right here. I love it. She looks like such a gremlin. Muttering about how there had to be some basic spell that fit her needs, she continued to flip through the pages. It goes without saying that she was looking for a way to deal with the witness from the previous night. Magecraft's uses were many, but not all encompassing. Fundamentally, Magecraft was good for making things or phenomena that existed already, while more or less bypassing the time and resources conventional means would require. It was, however, unable to manifest phenomena that were impossible in this world. It was essentially an equivalent exchange that used a variety of shortcuts. Ah yes, alchemy! The phenomenon made possible by human hands, actualized by an individual's power. That was generally what Magecraft was. To give a simple example, if Aoko were so inclined, she could make an entire lake appear at the mansion. However, it had to be something that existed within this world. Nothing, not even the smallest matter, could escape this unbreakable law. Even if Aoko were to release a level of heat on par with an F-15 fighter jet's afterburner, that event would only be possible if the circuit named Haozaki acted as a temporary input variable in a magical formula. The derived equivalence was simply a value that had already occurred in reality. If the variable in the equation did not exist elsewhere in reality, the spell would not be valid. The imaginary element known as magical energy was like a lie that could only slip its fantasy through the network of order at the moment of ignition. Dude, we're getting so much lore explanation of how magic works. That's cool. I'm gonna guess this is just how it works throughout the whole Nonsiverse, as well as when you think about it, this is all just a big math formula. You literally have the imaginary equation I, and then you have, well, that's the unknown variable. So you have an unknown, and then you have to have something that exists. So you do have an X variable. You have to have an X, but then you have to have something equal to that. This is cool. Giving form to the non-existent illusions invading reality was something the universe did not allow.
とは言っても、エーテルは基本何にでもできるんで、大元が嘘なんだっけ。魔力だけで構成されたものは幻想扱いされて急速に消えていくとか。典型的な結界、茨の壁とかはもともと茨を生やしておいて魔力で一気に成長強化してるものだし、魔力っていうのは結局使い勝手のいいガソリン兼事象に火をつける火花ってわけで。なんて言いつつ架空要素云々より基本的な回路の接続と魔力を加工して弾くことぐらいしかできないのよね。
Hey, projectile magic is nothing to scoff at. That's really good. Laughing to herself, she looked for a banded field or something similar more suited to her current ability. The identity of the witness was still unknown, but if they were a classmate of Aoko's, she had any number of pretexts by which to lure them out. The problem was after that.
そうなると問題は命中率よね。一撃で決めないと逃げられちゃうだろうし。
To be honest, she wasn't confident she could handle this smoothly without Alice's support. But Aoko saw no reason to ask for help given that the target in question was a regular bystander. Fledgling as she was, she still had her pride as a mage. She continued to turn through the pages rhythmically. In the midst of the fluttering sound of thumbing through the volume, Aoko suddenly stopped her finger at a certain page.
見つけた。
She smiled to herself. It was a simple formula that she had tucked away somewhere in the recesses of her memory. Spell of simple destruction.
檻をね、作ればいいのよ。
A bird cage. Woo!
狩りをする時の常套手段じゃない。獲物を逃げられないようにするのは。
She placed a bookmark in the book, closed it, and got up to return to her room. Suddenly, she felt someone watching her. Oh! Oh, that's a cool shot. Through the window, she saw her in the night, a girl staring back with a cold-hearted expression. The girl's face with hers, the expression undoubtedly her own. That's interesting. She began planning how to erase the witness, though to say it was something as elaborate as a plan was overkill. Is that like supposed to represent the dark side of herself, the mage side? This was just her job. She was gonna make a cage and then lure her prey into it. There was no getting around it. Premeditated violence.
さ、そろそろアリスは上がったかな?
She mumbled out loud as if the bath would return some warmth to her chilled heart. I'm loving the moral dilemma here. I'm really enjoying the twist of it when it's going to be Sojiro. About 20 minutes had passed and she gave Alice the privilege of using the hot water first. Alice tended to bathe quickly, finishing well under 10 minutes. Her roommate was the type that could not understand the spirit of the bath. Treating it as nothing more than a necessity for looking after one's body. Nah, the spirit of the bath's important, Alice. We're gonna have to disagree there. For Alice, the concept of staying at a hot spring inn sounded more like a chore than anything, though in this regard, Aoko had to agree.
よし、浴場はカラッと。あれ、今に電気ついてる?
Dude, the soundtrack in this game is so good. It was unusual for Alice to sit in the drawing room after her bath. On nights when she had nothing to discuss, it was her style to return directly to her bedroom.
アリス、いるの?
Alice nodded. With no book in hand, it appeared that Alice had been waiting for Aoko.
そういうこと。私も信用ないな、ほんと。
Aoko scratched her head in exasperation. Was it that Alice was worried about her, or had no faith in her? Her expression was so calm, Aoko could hardly figure what she was thinking.
方針なら決まったけど、聞く?
その顔を見れば聞かなくてもわかるわ。迷いがなくなったのはいいことだけど。悪い癖ね。
You're so easy to read. Alice let out a small sigh. It was unusual for Alice to make such a display of her disappointment.
ええ、騙し討ちは趣味じゃないから。殺すにしても正々堂々。正面から理由を言った後に。
You're gonna do that? You're gonna go that far with it?
それならすっぱり後腐れもないし。文句ある?
文句はないわ。そういうの好きか嫌いかはこの際関係ないでしょうし。けど
確実性はどうかってことでしょ。私いまいち命中率悪いし、その辺の問題は場所選びでフォローしようかなと。私はアリスのようにはいかないから、物理的に逃げられない場所にしようと思うんだけど、何かアイディアない?
Alice nodded in thought. The finger that gently rested on her lips indicated that the question was to her liking.
鏡はどう? 鏡の国なら永遠に閉じ込めていられるけど。
All eternity! That's a fate worse than death!
あんた、そういうところ常識ないわよね。
She frowned at Alice's bad taste. She's like, What's wrong with that? It was the kind of idea her roommate found to be inspired, but Aoko knew that was out of the question. Aoko was looking for a natural bounded field she could prepare, not a realm bordering on true magic that she couldn't create to begin with.
なら他を当たるのね。でも、ここを使うのだけはやめてちょうだい。
言われなくても分かってるって。けど、
I love that
そうね。
face.
ミラーハウスはいいアイディアかも。
Aoko smirked and shifted her balance away from the wall she was resting on.
サンキュー、アリス。全体の流れは出来上がったわ。ほんと、こういうのってダメ元でも相談してみるものよね。
He was like, huh? Now in a good mood, Aoko retreated from the drawing room. Alice tried to fail to visualize what kind of blueprint Aoko had drawn up in her mind, but whatever it was, it appeared to be the thorough kind Aoko was good at. Aoko headed for the bathroom, humming to herself as she went. A year and a half of sharing a living space had taught Alice something. When Aoko Hazaki was in this good of a mood, only deep trouble could follow.
青子一人に任せていいの
Oh,
か
there's the bird.
ですっ
Okay.
て。
No. Bluebird. Apataitara. It was unclear how long the bird had been in the drawing room. Chirping at Alice, the robin-like bird pranced across the furniture as if it were its property.
そうね。彼女が一人でやると言ったのだから、任せるのが正しい信頼関係なんでしょうけど。
The girl in black raised her arm. The bird, chirping once again, alighted on her outstretched affectionate finger.
嫌な話だけど、信頼と信用はまた違う話よね。
Yeah, they absolutely are. bird puffed out its stout chest in agreement, and Aoko was none the wiser to her roommate's rather unsettling comments. Alright, everyone. I think that's gonna do it for today's episode of Witch on the Holy Night. This might be a bad place to stop, as I imagine maybe some potentially earth-shattering stuff is gonna be happening soon, but I want to save that for a fresh episode. A lot happened here. We finished chapter 2, which was a very short one. We went to the casino, did our job, we saw a very mysterious character that freaked Sojiro out. And then in chapter 3, which was very short, we witnessed the stuff that happened in the park, and I think it connected the dots between the mystery in chapter 2 with what Sojiro saw and was talking about that freaked him out so much that he didn't think was an illusion. Chapter 4. So Sojiro saw what happened in the park, and that was with Aki, Alice, and the doll. And chapter 4, we got a lot of development with Aozaki realizing that she has no particular reason to dislike Sojiro, and that there's just no reason for it, and that deep down it's just some deep-seated issue with whatever upbringing she had. We learned that she definitely is the person from the beginning of the story whose grandfather was weird. I need to reread that section. We learned that some more about her majorly duties and just the relationship that Alice and Aozaki have as more of a very strained one. They're good friends, but only in a beneficial sense, just like true mages. And the fact that if the benefit arrived that they kill each other is very sad. I wonder if they could develop more on that and become true friends by the end of the game. I'm not sure. Maybe Sojiro could bring them together. The fact that we have the twist now that Aozaki is going to go after the stranger, and once it turns out to be Sojiro, could open a big can of worms, considering now she has no reason to hate Sojiro, but this could be a big wedge into that to make her, you know, not... We'll see eye to eye with Sojiro again. Ooh, things are getting tight. Who is the person at the pachinko? Who's Alice and Aozaki looking for? What's Sojiro's... What is he going to do when being confronted with Aozaki? It's going to be crazy. But that's going to be the end of this episode. So, just want to say thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to see the next... Wait, if you want to see the next episode, then you just wait. What? I don't even know what I'm saying. Have a great day, everybody. Whether it's morning, day, evening, or night, please be sure to stay safe out there and take care. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.